The First World War was one of the most devastating conflicts in human history. Millions of lives were lost on the battlefields, where soldiers endured unimaginable suffering. It was a war that reshaped nations, redrew borders, and left an indelible mark on the world. Yet even in the midst of the chaos and carnage, humanity found a way to shine through. In December 1914, a remarkable and spontaneous event unfolded along the Western Front. An event so extraordinary that it still inspires us today. This is the story of the Christmas Truce, a fleeting but unforgettable moment of peace that demonstrated the resilience of the human spirit in even the darkest of times. By December 1914, the war had been raging for nearly 5 months. What was initially expected to be a swift and decisive conflict had devolved into a gruesome stalemate. After the German advance was halted at the First Battle of the Marne, both sides dug into the earth, creating a network of trenches that stretched over 400 miles from the North Sea to the Swiss border. These trenches became the soldiers' grim reality, cold, muddy, and riddled with disease. The air was thick with the smell of decaying bodies, unwashed uniforms, and stagnant water. Rats scurried through the trenches, feasting on scraps and sometimes on the remains of fallen soldiers. The psychological toll was immense. Soldiers lived under constant threat, with artillery shells, sniper fire, and gas attacks a daily reality. Letters home painted a bleak picture of life on the front lines. Many of these men were young, barely out of their teens, and had left behind families, sweethearts, and jobs, believing they were embarking on an adventure that would be over by Christmas. But as December approached, it became clear that the war would drag on far longer than anyone had anticipated. Amidst this desolation, something extraordinary began to happen. On Christmas Eve, in scattered sections of the front, soldiers noticed a change in the air. The sounds of gunfire and shelling diminished, replaced by the faint strains of singing. German troops began serenading their British counterparts with carols, their voices carrying across the frozen expanse of no man's land. Stille Nacht, known in English as Silent Night, was one of the first songs to echo through the trenches, its haunting melody breaking the silence. British soldiers responded in kind, singing their own carols, creating a surreal exchange of music between enemies. The following morning, something even more extraordinary occurred. In certain areas, German soldiers cautiously climbed out of their trenches, waving white flags or holding signs that read, "You know shoot, we know shoot." British soldiers, initially wary, began to do the same. Slowly, men from both sides ventured into no man's land, the treacherous strip of land that had been the site of so much death and destruction. There they met as equals, shaking hands, exchanging greetings, and marveling at the absurdity of their situation. What followed was nothing short of miraculous. Soldiers who had spent months trying to kill one another now shared cigarettes, food, and even small tokens like buttons and patches from their uniforms. They showed each other photographs of loved ones back home and swapped stories about their lives before the war. For a few precious hours, they were no longer enemies. They were simply men, united by their shared humanity. Perhaps the most famous and enduring image of the Christmas truce is that of the soccer matches reportedly played in no man's land. Using makeshift balls crafted from tin cans or bundles of rags, soldiers kicked and chased these improvised footballs across the frozen ground. While the details of these matches remain somewhat anecdotal, with accounts varying widely, the spirit of the games is undeniable. These matches, however brief, became a symbol of camaraderie and the universal language of play, transcending even the horrors of war. The truce was not limited to one location or one nationality. It occurred in various sectors along the Western Front, involving British, German, and even some French and Belgian troops. In some areas, soldiers collaborated on more somber tasks, such as burying their dead. The ceasefire allowed both sides to retrieve bodies that had lain in no man's land for weeks, providing a moment of closure in a conflict that often denied such dignity. One of the most striking aspects of the truce was its spontaneity. This was not an event orchestrated by high-ranking officers or political leaders. It emerged organically from the trenches. Soldiers on the ground took it upon themselves to put down their weapons and embrace peace, however fleeting. This spontaneity is what makes the truce so remarkable. It was a grassroots movement of humanity, defying the orders and expectations of those in power. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new daily videos. The question often arises, how was such an event possible? To understand the Christmas truce, we must consider the unique context of 1914. At this early stage of the war, soldiers on both sides were still adjusting to the grim realities of trench warfare. Many were volunteers or conscripts who had joined the fight with a sense of patriotic duty, unaware of the horrors that awaited them. They had not yet become desensitized to the violence, and for many, the camaraderie and shared suffering of trench life created a sense of solidarity that extended even to their enemies. Additionally, the soldiers on both sides shared similar cultural and religious traditions. Christmas was a deeply significant holiday, celebrated with songs, rituals, and customs that were familiar to everyone. Even those who were not particularly religious found comfort in the symbols of the season, a time of peace, goodwill, and hope. These shared traditions provided a common ground that transcended national boundaries and military objectives. But the truce was not universal. In some sectors, the fighting continued unabated, and attempts at fraternization were met with suspicion or outright hostility. High-ranking officers on both sides were largely opposed to the ceasefire, fearing it would undermine discipline and morale. In some cases, soldiers who participated in the truce faced reprimands or threats of punishment. Despite these obstacles, the truce spread along significant portions of the front, defying orders and expectations. By December 26th, the war resumed in full force. The brief reprieve of the Christmas truce was over, and the soldiers who had shared cigarettes and carols were once again forced to take up arms against one another. For many, this return to violence was profoundly disheartening. Letters and diaries from the period reveal the deep emotional impact of the truce, as well as the bitterness of having to return to the grim realities of war. In the years since, the Christmas truce has become a symbol of hope and the enduring power of the human spirit. It has inspired countless works of art, literature, and film, including the acclaimed 2005 movie Joyeux Noël. It is commemorated annually by peace organizations and historians, who see it as a poignant reminder of what is possible when we choose compassion over conflict. In recent years, reenactments of the truce have brought people from different nations together to play soccer and celebrate the spirit of unity. However, it is also important to approach the story of the Christmas truce with a sense of nuance. While it is undeniably moving, it is also a stark reminder of the futility of war. The truce did not end the conflict, nor did it significantly alter its course. It was a fleeting moment of peace in a sea of violence, a testament to what could be, but also a reminder of what was lost. Today, the Christmas truce stands as a powerful symbol of our shared humanity. It challenges us to look beyond the divisions of nationality, language, and ideology, and to recognize the common bonds that unite us all. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there is always the potential for light, for kindness, and for hope. As we reflect on this extraordinary moment in history, let us carry its lessons forward. In a world that often feels divided, the story of the Christmas truce offers a timeless message of reconciliation and unity. It is a story that calls us to remember our shared humanity and to strive for peace, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. If this story moved you as much as it moves me every time I hear it, I encourage you to share it with others. Let the world know about this incredible moment when for just one day, humanity triumphed over the chaos of war. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel for more stories like this one. And as always, stay curious.